Welcome to ZOOMERTIMES TV. And here's your host, Anita Finley.
Hello, everybody. Here I am, Anita Finley again, and I never get tired of doing these interviews on our Zoomer Times. But there are certain people I do them with that are so special to me, and I can hardly wait to get more done. And this is a professor, actually, of a university in North Miami, but also someone who writes ferociously. She's had so many books out. The one that we wrote, we put on the cover of July was 5 Stethoscopes, 6 Secrets. And here's what it was. I'll put it closer. And Rose, Dr. Stiffin, is a very, as I say, prolific writer. I don't know when she gets the time to do it, but I think she dreams them and she doesn't sleep much, but whatever she does, they're pretty good. So Rose, I'm going to say Rosemary Stiffin, and you teach organic and inorganic chemistry. I'm sure you do other things too, though, don't you?
Yes.
So let's talk about this. You know, the more I think about this book now, especially with the COVID, and thinking about what medical doctors have to go through. Now, you're not a medical doctor, but you seem to know a lot about them, don't you?
Well, I think when you do your science degree, you learn a lot that medical doctors do know. Yes.
And of course, this was unique because it was a story about 5 Black women who wanted to be doctors. Some of them wanted to do research. And then there's one professor or one director of this school. And it's not easy to be a medical doctor anyway. But to go and do it as a young Black woman is even more difficult, isn't it, Rose?
Yes. And that's why I wanted to write the novel to show that these young women could get into medical school and succeed, and some against odds. I mean, one young lady was basically homeless, another young lady wasn't as intelligent as the others, and another one had a lifestyle that could have interfered with her studies. So each one of them had a problem, but they could overcome that problem to allow them to succeed.
Right. And you, of course, going back, knowing your history, because I talked to you enough times, knowing that it wasn't an easy life for you either. And you, against all odds, rose into a very high, rose into a very high acclaimed place where you're teaching future physicians, I believe.
Yes, definitely. We've created several students who became medical doctors. Several.
Yeah, and can you tell that when they're in your class that they're going to be successful that way?
I don't think you can tell, but you can encourage. And then with that encouragement, you might be able to say, yeah, they'll succeed. But they may think that they can and they may get discouraged. If I feel that they can, I'm going to do everything I can to encourage them.
Right.
Everything.
Yep. I know that's how you are. Just knowing you, I don't know you personally yet. I'm looking for that day when I can sit and have you sit across the table from you because you're such an interesting, kind woman. Well, let's talk about 5 Stethoscopes and 6 Secrets. Why does someone want to read the book?
Well, I think that if they like secrets, they may want to know what those secrets are. If they like good storytelling, again, they should read the book. But also because I think it is a good novel. When I look at it and I see how the secrets evolve or how they come about, I think that it's a pretty good book. I encourage one to read it, but not because I wrote it. I think it's a good story, and to know that some of these secrets are really terrifying secrets. They're not just secrets, they're terrifying. Some of them are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're complicated, a lot of complications in it. And I just want to look at this one more time again. So there's a 493 pages. 493, right? That's right. Look at the size of this book. You know, and if you've been following Rosemary Stiffin and you've been following Boomer Times, we've been putting her books in here because we think a lot of them. You'd see that she's really, I mean, you really do. Your mind just goes off the charts all the time. You always have new ideas. And I don't even want to ask you, I know you're working on something else. You always do. But
Yeah.
let's just think about this. So, you know, stethoscopes are interesting. Stethoscope, you know, you even see people who aren't doctors wearing them. It's like almost a medal, isn't it?
Well, I think if you're a medical doctor, it is a recognition that you started and succeeded in something, especially when you're in medical school. To wear the white coat and the stethoscope puts you one step closer to being that medical doctor. Yeah.
Right. And I've actually seen people do this who are not doctors. You know, you go to an office and you see them and all, and I guess they can listen to the heart also, you know.
A nurse practitioner or a physician's assistant, yes.
Right. And so it's pretty important. And they and there must be the stethoscope's a difficult word to spell, you know.
Okay.
I mean, it is, and you know, and I was writing stethoscope, so and I've not really had one in my hand. I'm sure you have, but I haven't.
Well, when I was, I was working and we had to become certified and we had to know how to check the heartbeat and how to do the blood pressure. So, but that was years ago. But yes, I have. Yes.
Right. So it's very symbolic, and you can see on the cover they're all joined together. Now that's the whole point. You had 5 women did not know one another when they first started, and yes, they did become very very close because they had to. They were, as Dr. Stiffin said, you know, a lot of them were in trauma with a lot of things. That wasn't, their patients weren't in trauma, they were in trauma. There are a lot, each one had their own life with lots of things that didn't go well, but in the end, they fought through it. I think that's what I got from this, that it's being a doctor is hard enough, becoming one. But with the kinds of history and the kinds of work they had to do, it was really hard.
Yes, but they survived and they persevered, and because they didn't give up their dream, they became a success in their own way. I don't think they were millionaires or they cured cancer or anything like that, but they started a path and they didn't deviate from the path, even though there were a couple of moments where there were hiccups, but they still persevered. And that's what the novel is also about, how you have to stick to it to get to your goal.
And someone's probably going to say, well, what's the sixth secret? Well, that was a very special person. The sixth secret was the director of the organization, and she had her own secrets. And she was kind of an interesting woman. I had to kind of wait. I didn't know what was going to happen until I got really towards the end there. The last chapter was really great. I'm glad.
Well, I wanted it to be a wrap up where she was battling with herself about her developing feelings, and that was a secret. And so by the time she realizes that her feelings are reciprocated, it is toward the end. But she's the director, so her primary duties are to those students. But her secret is her feelings for her own superior.
Yeah, that's true. And of course, he was not Black as she was, which is even more interesting. I mean,
well, actually, that is true. That is true. And I didn't want it to be a where we have to think about race, because based on what happened with the 5 young women,
right?
One married a Caucasian, one married a Haitian, one married a guy who was Black but looked white, and don't forget, one married a woman. So it wasn't like we were going to make a cookie cutter. It's not a cookie cutter book.
No, it wasn't. That's right. No, you did the whole thing, and that's what made it so special. And the one thing that I want to tell everybody, and I don't know, is there a particular place that you can read something? I know you must have. Do you have the book with you there?
I have the book here with me.
Okay, so let's ask you, which person was your favorite of all the women of the five women? Who do you think you could have been a close friend with and you really liked?
Well,
Anyone
of the
particular?
five, I think I liked. Well, I liked all of them for their tenacity. The one who overcame the most, in my opinion, was Amaryllis. And I like the fact that she did not have an understanding of what love was because of her upbringing. She loved, but she didn't know that her love was love. Love is an action verb. And she said that she didn't think she could love anyone because she didn't grow up in a household where there was love, there was survival. And so she may be one of my favorites, but I like all of them for their own reasons. Some are terrifying, and so you wouldn't want to meet them on but they are still, a part of the novel, and so they become one of my characters.
You just said something though that's very interesting. I never thought about that. So if people grow up in a family and they're all good people, but there's not a strong love bond, it does carry forward into their own future life. I didn't know about that.
Well, and that's what happens with Amaryllis. She grew up in a fractured household because of her mother. She didn't know her father. She was put into group homes and she was put into basically, orphanages
Foster
or
situations.
foster situations. And that did not give her any stability. So to meet a guy who falls in love with her and she understands the physical aspect of love, that's sex, but she didn't understand the love that, as she calls it, those rose tinted glasses. She didn't grow up with that. And because she didn't think that she could love like she was supposed to. And that might have been her biggest secret, not her background, but the fact that she was terrified that she wouldn't be able to love anyone.
Yeah.
But she was already a loving person. She just didn't know it.
Yeah. But you put a lot of psychology into these people. You really understood those characters. I mean, they're your characters, but
right.
But they still carry forward a lot of personalities that I guess you must know a lot of people and you picked from this one and that one and put it all together. But so if you, which I'd like you to read a little something, because I like authors to read, whether it's just a page or something, because you write this, but when you read it yourself, you're really sharing the guts of it with us. And I hope you will do that. Is there something, I should have asked you ahead of time so you were prepared, but you're a pretty fast start. Is there somebody there or one page or something that you would like to grab and just read to us?
Well, I could read for Amaryllis, and
Okay.
it would be about a page, and that shouldn't take more than 2 minutes. And
Okay, take your time.
So it's page 365 to 366. It's a page and a half.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so I'm reading from the novel, and this is Amaryllis talking to herself. Sex, I knew. Sex, I understood. But Crawford wanted more. With this ring on my finger, he offered more. What about your family? Have you told them? He met Aaron at Alike's funeral services, but that was over 2 years ago. If his folks came here or if he went to them, I chose not to know. And he never told me he visited them if he was gone. Maybe I didn't want to know anything. After all, he never asked me to accompany him, and I never invited him anywhere. Did he know that without housing from the university, I was homeless? He never mentioned my year-round work on my studies, while Glory, Joe, or Connie, even Candy took time off. We went to see family, friends for weeks at a time. Had he guessed yet another secret I had? Flower girl. They'll fall in love with you just like I did. I said nothing, wanting to scream my thought out loud. I'm terrified I can't love you, that I don't know how to love anyone the way it's meant to be. Crawford took me in his arms and kissed me gently for a long time. He touched my hair, loose from the braids I'd worn last night. His voice was soft, husky. What is your problem, flower girl? I thought the kiss undid me, but it was his question, so like him. I cried and laughed, but the laughter took over. We collapsed on the couch, both of us heaving in air as if it were too thick to inhale, weighing us down. I don't know how to love you. I don't know how to be a wife. There, it was out. Maybe not my last secret, but an important one. He blinked at me, utterly confused. He touched a scar on my legs, ages old, smoothed into my skin, shaped like an arc in a circle. Tell me again how you got that. Now I was confused. I told him how I got that scar one dull, rainy Saturday at the center, maybe a year ago. I was 11 and Aaron was 9. There was a boy, maybe 2 years older than me, bullying my brother. Our sister was nowhere around. Aaron wasn't scared, wasn't crying, but the boy was bigger, and I knew a fight broke out. He wouldn't pull his punches. He would kill my brother. I wasn't sure what happened next. Kids say I went crazy, that I was screaming and crying. All I knew, all I remembered was the bully was on the ground, bruises all over his head and arms, his hands held high to defend the blows I was giving him with a 2x4 that had a nail sticking out of it. The scar came from my swinging the board too close to my body while I beat the bully into the mud. Love is an action verb, flower girl. You could write a book on love. I lifted my hand, the one that held his ring, a symbol of his love for me. High above my head, I spread my fingers, lowered my hand, palm open, and laid it against my chest. You'll help me? He cocked his red brows at me. What? Write a book on love? Flower girl, I shook my head and the braids fell like loose twists and twirls down my back, across my shoulders. Help me love you. Help me love. Help me. Help. Amaryllis, you don't ever have to ask me to do that. Sometimes I forgot he knew my name. I was his flower girl all the time. As if to punctuate that promise, he put his hand, like I had, over my heart. So she is telling her fiance, because he presents her with a ring and she doesn't even know it. And they had been together as sexual partners for 2 years. And she said, I understand sex, but there was the love that she didn't think she could give to him because she wasn't used to that romantic love. She wasn't used to that family love. She was in survival mode. She protected her brother. And that's what he is telling her, that you protected your brother from the bully out of love, not just to beat the guy into the ground, but she loved him. And that is what she didn't understand, that she already knew how to love, that she could literally write a book about love, because love is an action verb, and she took action. And that's what she is throughout the novel. She is an action person. She doesn't sit back and wait for things to happen.
You see,
so that was a little bit about Amaryllis.
Oh, yeah. Well, when you read it, I was mesmerized. You see, you're into it. And as you're reading it, I have to say this. How did she get those words? How did she get all that in there to put that in there? I mean, that's like amazing that you do that. I mean,
well, I think if you can get to know the characters, then you know what they'll do. And so you can write their story because you know them. And it did take a while. I got to know the characters a little bit better. And so the words started to flow because I was getting to know them. And I think that's when I think that's when a writer is going to do an adequate to a good job, is when he knows his or her characters.
But when you first start out with your idea and your story, you don't know them so well. You probably get to know them more as you're writing, it sounds like.
And I think that is true for every writer. No character is going to come fully formed and you just take the story down. You're going to find out that even though you may have created an image, you need to know that person. And by writing, you're going to see, oh, well, this is a surprise to me, but that this character did this. It's a surprise to me that she said this or he said that, because you're getting to know the characters and they're guiding you to write their story down.
You know, and you really never knew anyone like that. This wasn't a story about a friend of yours, was it? Was this a made-up story?
Everything is fiction. I may have, and I said earlier, like I took names from people I knew. I took a situation from a person I knew, but it still is a fiction, a work of fiction, because even if I said, okay, I'm going to use this person's name to write, I'm using his name, but I'm not telling his story. I'm just using that name. I may like the name. I love to listen to names. And so I may get a name and think, oh, well, I'm going to create a character with that name because I just like the name.
Okay. Do you have your books in your classrooms? Are your students aware of all your books, I hope?
I think that they're aware, but getting them to read, period. Like I gifted one of the novels, the 5 Stethoscopes, to a student. And one student said, oh, I don't read. And she's an excellent student and she doesn't read. So I'm like, oh my God, this is bad because you are a good student and you're going to have to read as part of your job. So I said, okay, but the other person said she was going to read it. So I'm hoping to get some feedback from them and then pass it on.
Amazing. So all your books, though, you have so many. So in your classroom, don't you have a place that you could put them and then people maybe would say, well, you wrote that book and
Well, you know what? I think that's a very good idea, Anita. I may just put them on display because I tell them, but I don't think they pay attention. And so maybe if they saw the physical book, they might pay attention.
Please do that. I mean, you have all of them. Just sit them all there. And if you take our magazines, you could just kind of put it right there and show that, that there's been a review of it. And, oh, you're denying them something, I think.
Well, and it wouldn't be intentional. So yeah, that is a very good idea, and I'm definitely going to look into that. And next time we see each other, we're gonna discuss that if we can.
And it's maybe one time you can go in your classroom and I can see where you have them.
Oh, that'll be yeah, that'll be interesting. Yes.
So you're in your office now, and how many professors are there in your school?
Well, we have, in my division, we are down to 6 faculty members. And we had one professor to leave just at the beginning of the semester. He left just as school was starting. And so now we're down to only 2 chemistry professors. So that's why I have 7 classes.
I was wondering because I didn't think you had so many. So are they all on every day? You said Thursdays are free.
Thursdays I'm free, but I've been seeing students all morning.
Huh. So you're seeing students as a counselor, or how are you seeing students as a
advisor?
Advisor. My goodness. Well, so I know I said this very briefly, but you do have another book you're working on. I think you said that after I talked to you about this book, you were when you were telling us about the 5 stethoscopes. You have one or 2?
I'm working on one novel. I can only work, and I would think I'm maybe halfway through, but I still know that I've got to go farther. And now here's the problem. I don't know these characters as well as I would like. And so I write once a week, but I write a lot in that because I'm thinking, so when I sit down to write, the words may flow, but it's not an easy process.
Do you dream of these as sometimes your subconscious is developing them?
No, my dreams are usually about something related to work, and that's bothering me because I'm trying not to let it overpower me. But I don't dream about my characters. I wish I did. That would help me out.
Oh, well, that's interesting. You know, when I see a good movie or something, I spend the night dreaming about it.
Wow, I that hasn't happened in a long time. Lately, I'm at a meeting. I'm always at a meeting, and that's what the dreams are. They're recurring dreams about my being at a meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so your creative juices, though, somehow come, uh, I don't know how they come or where they come from, but sounds like you have a special place, like a box that they're all in, and you all of a sudden you open the box and then they come out, and then you have to close your box again.
Well, that might be the way it is, that each character can fit into a mold, and I have to release them because with each one of my novels, including five stethoscopes, six secrets, I had to get to know them and then put them into this box so that I could put them out when I needed to say, okay, what's going on with Connie? What's going on with Glory? What's going on with Dr. Hoslin? So that I could write their story for them.
I'm glad you brought that up, because what I liked about your book, and this is the book, by the way, it's the big book, the wonderful book. It's something you're going to, well, I'll dream about it. You may not, but this is you each you separate them by chapters. You have each person so people don't get mixed up. You're reading a chapter and it shows each of the women in that chapter and what they're doing, what they're thinking. A lot of books don't do that, and sometimes you get mixed. I know I can get mixed up, but it's very clear what you do. And then, of course, the very last one, I think, is 12 years later, isn't it, or something like that?
10 years later.
And yeah, right.
10 years later.
You know, usually it's funny, when I want to read something quickly, I go to the last chapter to see what's going on.
Oh, I do the same.
But it didn't matter because the last chapter wasn't as good as all the other. I mean, you know, it's the culmination of it, but your chapters, you don't want to miss any of these chapters. I mean, the way it starts is very interesting. How, you know, how the woman who is going to be running this, the director running something that's new and unusual, and she's putting her name on the line. I mean, this is a very big, powerful thing for her. She doesn't even know sometimes, can she do it? And then she's not sure if the people around her are going to allow her to do it.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, yeah. So this is a lot about women, but you know, we learn about the men too in their lives. You do focus on them also.
Yes.
And so.
Did you want me to talk about one of the men in particular?
Why don't you talk about some of the men?
Okay. So
you are not married, right?
I'm not married, looking, but not married.
Looking. Aren't
looking.
we all? You're looking.
There
but
you go.
You've had men in your life. It's just you haven't had a permanent man.
No, not a permanent one.
Right.
So looking at, actually my favorite male character is a toss-up between Candy's husband, whose name is Connor, and Amaryllis's husband, who is Crawford. She calls him Crawdad, but it's Crawford. And the reason that there's a toss-up is because Connor adores Candy, and Candy has a very dark secret. She has a dark secret, but he loves her. He doesn't know what the secret is, and he never will, because if he does, we don't know what would happen. But he tells her, nothing you can do will stop me from loving you. And right. I like the fact that this man is so devoted to this woman, and technically, and I don't want to give anything away, technically, she should be in jail. That's all I'll say, technically. Right. And then there's Crawford, who is from Kentucky. He's poor, just like Amaryllis is, but he was raised with his family. But he doesn't see any type of difference between them. And he tells her that he wants to be her friend, that she needs a friend. And that is new to her because she wasn't a friend because she was always trying to make sure she was going to survive, just have enough food to eat. So having friendship wasn't paramount to her. Like some people, oh, I need a friend. She needed to survive.
You know,
So I
Rose,
like her for that.
I never have enough time with you. I'm afraid that if I come down to see you, I'm going to be there for hours and hours, but we will have to do that. But thank you. I love our interviews. You're so enlightening and so sweet and so kind and so smart. It's a great pleasure for me to do this.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate those words. Thank you. And I always enjoyed meeting Dan and you. I enjoy that all the time. And I feel as if I know you too, but we don't know each other. But I'm always happy to see you guys, always. And thank you so much.
We do love you. We don't know, we know what love is, and we feel that, you know, we do interview a lot of people and we like a lot of people, but somehow love flows to you from us. I know that.
Yes.
So thank you very much. We don't want to run out of time. And if all of a sudden everything drops, you'll know that I know we're going back now. We're off of the YouTube, but we can talk for a minute. And then if it drops, it's not our fault. It's just what happens.
Okay. Okay. So how are
Bye,
you doing?
everybody. Thank you. This was a great interview with Rose Mary Stiffin on 5 Stethoscopes and 6 Secrets. A great book. You've got to get this.
Please do, and let me know what you think of it.